I was focused on coming to California when I was like 9 years old.
When you think of Tombstone, you picture merciless gunfights, unforgettable leaners, and of course, Sam Elliott's iconic mustache stealing every scene. But here's the twist. Elliot recently revealed a behind-the-scenes truth that most fans of the legendary Western never picked up on. It's the kind of detail that flips how you see the movie. And once you know it, you can't unsee it. So, what exactly did Sam Elliott confess about Tombstone that left fans stunned after all these years? Stick around because this revelation might just change the way you watch the film forever. What was Tombstone really about? When you think of Tombstone, you're not just thinking of a Western, you're thinking of fights, gunsmoke, and one of the most unforgettable ensembles ever put on screen. Released in 1993, this wasn't just another cowboy flick. It was George P. Cosmatos' vision brought to life after writer Kevin Jarre, the film's original director, was replaced early in production. And the cast was absolute dynamite. Kurt Russell embodied Wyatt Earp with determination, while Val Kilmer turned Doc Holliday into a scene-stealing legend of cinema. But the brilliance didn't stop there. Sam Elliott carried the weight of Virgil Earp with a commanding presence that felt carved out of stone. Bill Paxton gave Morgan Earp a tragic vulnerability that made his fate sting even harder. Powers Booth oozed pure menace as Curly Bill, the kind of villain who made the air shift when he entered a scene. Then came Michael Biehn's chilling turn as Johnny Ringo, a performance that made madness look poetic. Dana Delaney brought fire and passion to Josephine Marcus, shaking up the story in all the right ways. And to crown it all, the narration came from Robert Mitchum himself. A legend lending his voice to a legend. Together, this wasn't just a film. Tombstone was an event set against the bloody backdrop of the 1880s in southeast Arizona. The story is pulled straight from history, the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral and the Earp Vendetta ride. Critics praised its direction and wonderful acting with Kilmer's hard-drinking, sharp-tongued Doc Holliday stealing nearly every scene. The result, a $73.2 million box office hit turned cult classic. And here's the kicker. Decades later, fans still can't stop quoting it. But if you think you know Tombstone inside and out, think again. Because behind all the famous lines, duels, and swaggering stares, there are stories that even diehard fans probably haven't heard. Kevin Jarre's firing. Tombstone isn't just a Western. It's one of the most beloved, endlessly rewatchable films of the modern era. And let's be honest, if you're a fan, you've probably quoted half the script by heart, especially Val Kilmer's unforgettable turn as Doc Holliday. His razor-sharp delivery laced with wit and swagger has gone down as the definitive portrayal of the gambling gunslinger. You might think you know every line, every showdown, every dramatic stare-down from this film. But here's the twist. There are hidden stories behind Tombstone that most fans have never heard. And once you know them, you'll never look at the movie the same way again. For starters, Tombstone wasn't just stacked. It was loaded with one of the most macho ensembles Hollywood ever pulled together. Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp. Sam Elliott as the stoic Virgil. Bill Paxton as the doomed Morgan. Powers Booth chewing up the screen as Curly Bill. Michael Biehn brings a chilling edge as Johnny Ringo, and that's before you even get to the supporting roster. Michael Rooker, Thomas Hayden Church, Stephen Lang, Billy Zane, Jason Priestley, Billy Bob Thornton, and Terry O'Quinn all left their marks. It was the kind of lineup that made the film feel larger than life before a single shot was fired. Speaking of shots, the movie was filmed almost entirely on location in Arizona starting in May 1993. Kevin Jarre, the screenwriter behind Glory and Judgment Night, wrote the script based on real figures like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday weaving in legendary events such as the gunfight at the OK Corral. Jarre wasn't just the writer. This was supposed to be his directorial debut. But that dream quickly collapsed. Overwhelmed by the pace of production, struggling to capture essential shots, and falling further behind schedule, Jarre was fired just 1 month into filming. That shakeup nearly tore the production apart. Michael Biehn, a close friend of Jarre, even considered walking away. Elliott admitted that he felt replacement director George P. Cosmatos didn't understand or respect the script. Still, when Cosmatos came in, the cast stuck together. he brought a strict no-nonsense presence to the set, which created friction, most notably with cinematographer William Frere. Meanwhile, Kurt Russell quietly stepped up, working with producer James Jacks to strip down Jar's sprawling script, trimming out subplots and focusing more on the bond between Wyatt and Document. But here's the kicker. Russell later revealed that it was actually him, not Cosmatos, who directed the film. According to Russell, Cosmatos was brought in as a kind off-ghost director, a public face, while Russell directed the movie behind the scenes. Val Kilmer backed him up, saying Russell essentially directed, though has stopped short of claiming Russell handled every actor personally. Bean himself admitted that Russell never gave him direction directly. But the truth is clear. Without Russell steering the ship, Tombstone might never have become the classic it is today. On the advice of Sylvester Stallone, Kurt Russell quietly took the reins, with Cosmatos acting as his on-set cover. Russell cut his own dialogue, lost hours of sleep, and made the tough calls to keep the production alive. He swore he'd keep the secret until after Cosmatos' death, and he did. In 2013, nearly a decade after Cosmatos passed away, Russell finally confessed in a candid interview with True West magazine. Cosmatos, for his part, leaned heavily into historical accuracy. Everything from costumes top props to customs was designed to feel authentic. Even iconic moments were built carefully, but Billy Bob Thornton's saloon scene where Wyatt throws him out was almost entirely improvised. Thornton had only one direction: be a bully. The result, a classic sequence that perfectly showed Wyatt's ability to dominate a room without ever drawing his gun. All the actors grew real mustaches except John Tenney. When you think of Tombstone, you picture the grit, the gun smoke, and of course, those glorious mustaches. But here's the thing. Those mustaches were in Hollywood props. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth, Jason Priestley, Stephen Lang, and Michael Biehn all committed so hard to their roles that they grew the real deal. No stick-ins, no quick fixes, just pure Old West authenticity hanging from their lips. Michael Biehn, who brought Johnny Ringo to life with Icy Menace, explained where that obsession came from. Kevin Jarrah, the film's original director, was a stickler for detail. He wanted the mustaches not just grown, but styled a very particular way, with curled ends polished with wax like men of the 1880s actually wore them. It wasn't just facial hair. It was character work. And the cast took a strange kind of pride in it, wearing their mustaches like a badge of honor, but not everyone got to join the brotherhood. John Tenney, who played Sheriff Johnny Bien, came in fresh off another role and couldn't grow one in time. That meant he had to fake it. According to Bain, Tenney carried that like a quiet shame on set, joking that he felt like the small dog of the group because his mustache wasn't real. It's oddity detail, but one that says everything about Tombstone. Even the whiskers had to be authentic. And speaking of authenticity, there's one piece of casting where Tombstone almost looked very different. William Dafoe almost played Doc Holliday. It's almost impossible to picture anyone but Val Kilmer delivering that razor-sharp Emir Huckleberry with the perfect mix of charm and menace. But believe it or not, Kilmer wasn't the studio's first pick. The role of Doc Holliday was originally set aside for William Dafoe. Imagine that, William Dafoe stepping into the boots of the legendary gunslinger. The role would have gone to Dafoe, but the only problem was Hollywood politics. Universal still had cold feet about Dafoe after The Last Temptation of Christ stirred controversy 5 years earlier. His role in The Last Temptation of Christ ultimately cost him Tombstone, but the what-ifs don't stop there. Legend has it Mickey Rourke was offered Johnny Ringo, but he passed. No one seems to know exactly why. Was it scheduling conflicts, creative differences, or maybe he just didn't feel it was the role for him? Whatever the reason, the part slipped away. But just picture that for a second. Rohr's smoldering unpredictability squaring off against Kilmer's witty, dying Document. Instead, the role went to Michael Biehn, who delivered a performance that still sends chills. Ironically, Rohr would circle back to the Western genre years later, showing up in Danny Cho's direct-to-DVD horror Western Dead and Tombstone. This time, not as a gunslinger, but as Lucifer himself. Talk about trading 6 shooters for eternal damnation. And speaking of fire and brimstone, let's talk about the man who lit up Tombstone in a way no one else could. Val Kilmer stole the show. Doc Holliday wasn't hurt by blood, but in Tombstone, he might as well have been the heartbeat of the story. While Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, and Bill Paxton carried the weight of the Earp brothers, it was Val Kilmer's Doc who stole every frame, every line, every moment. His portrayal wasn't just acting, it was channeling. The real Wyatt Earp once described his closest friend as a tall ash-blonde man, rail-thin, ravaged by tuberculosis, yet unmatched at the gambling table and lightning fast with Agin. Kilmer leaned into that description with obsessive detail. He didn't just memorize lines. He crafted a character dripping with equal parts charm, menace, and fragility. Holliday's cough wasn't overdone. It was haunting. His drawl wasn't generic Southern. It was refined and deliberate, based on careful study of Holliday's Georgian roots. And that quick draw you see on screen. Kilmer drilled at it relentlessly until the timing was flawless. But perfection came at a price. Filming in the Arizona summer was brutal, and Kilmer's heavy-wool costumes turned each day into a trial by fire. He was sweating through takes, yet he never let it break the performance. Off-camera, he studied Holliday's habits, mannerisms, and history, ensuring the role was more than a caricature of Audion gunslinger. The result, a performance so sharp and intense it overshadowed even the leads. Critics didn't just praise Kilmer, they crowned him the soul of Tombstone. Fans still debate if it's the greatest Western performance ever put on film. But here's the kicker. Kilmer later admitted he saw Holliday as both cursed and free. Dying young gave him nothing to lose, which made him the most dangerous man in the room. That subtle edge is why Dr.